Okay, we're racing to the end. We're on lesson 19 on Christian evolution. One of the most important subjects for a new Christian to settle. And when I say a new Christian, in the modern age, one of the reasons why people don't follow Jesus is because Jesus is just a teacher of moral things, but definitely he's not true. He's not accurate. So when they come to issues where Jesus talks about in the beginning, God made them male and female, in marriage, when Jesus speaks of creation, he's speaking of fairy tales. So people, when they come to the Bible, they go, oh, he's a good teacher, but he's not true. You can't trust him to teach about everything because they were all superstitious. They were all believing in myths. And that's a shame. That's a shame. So a Christian needs to know, all right, well, no, I can take the Bible scientifically. I can take it. I mean, it's not a scientific book. It's not a book about math. It's not, but everything it says about science is true. Yes, sir.
So the trouble is, every year they seem to add more to the length of time that the world was created and everything else. It's going billions of years. Mm-hmm. All this kind of thing, whereas before it might have been 100 million years.
That's right.
But now it's becoming ridiculous.
It does.
Well, it's ridiculous to start with anyway. Yeah. But, nobody ever tells you how they assess the time.
Right.
And, we know from people who have come here before and talked about that, it was, that they should buy the level that the apostles have found.
That's right. It's called circular reasoning. Yeah. And my forte is astronomy, and how they come up with distances and age and stuff like that is very suspect. Now I don't constantly contradict and say it can't be X billion light years away. All I know is when God created everything, he created it already looking old. So I have no problem scientifically looking at something, and when God created man, he looked 30 years old. When he created Eve, she looked 29 years old. I don't know. And that was their apparent age. And so apparent age is no problem for a Christian.
But they seem to have an agenda to fix it that way as well, because even the finds in the Bible, they say, it must be in a different period of time, and it's not aligning with the historical record that's there.
Yeah. Well, it's something to actually, we're going to try to anchor ourselves in some great truths here. Genesis 1:1, we have in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. So it says he created. So at this point in your discipleship training, you should realize foremost that the basis for what you believe is found in God's word, the Bible. Everything we believe comes from the Bible. Before you got saved, your basis for truth and fact were basically vague. You didn't know, you were told what to believe and what to know. And so you didn't know was anything really true. You may have had a belief concerning a subject, but with no real support. With God's word in your hand, though, truth and fact become quite clear, especially in relation to science. Bible believers do not run and hide behind their religious views. We go to the book of books and see what God says, because when it comes to facts, the evidence overwhelmingly proves the creation account of the Bible and not evolutionary theory. This lesson is going to provide the new Christian with the facts to both reinforce his or her faith in the Bible and also to deal with any scientist who may believe in the theory of evolution. A Bible believer can actually confront somebody who believes in evolution and give them some questions that they cannot answer. They always like to just say, we're much smarter than you. Well, you may be smarter and you may have more information, but that doesn't mean that you actually know what happened. So, Roman number 2 and 1, Bethany.
Some presuppositions, worldviews. Either you believe in the beginning God, an almighty creator, or 2, in the beginning dirt, an almighty accident.
There are only 2 options. Now I'm going to make it, somebody will say, well, that's too simplistic. No, it's true. Either we start with God or we start with dirt.
You can't even start with dirt because dirt wasn't there either.
Well, no, I'm talking about from an evolutionary viewpoint. They say that we always start with matter. Right? Even if it's an infinitesimal dot that exploded, we always start, and I just call it dirt. But we start with everything there's been an almighty accident created everything, or an almighty God did.
Yeah.
So I'm just using
I don't know
that analogy.
where the dirt came from anyway.
Well, yeah, nobody knows where the dirt came from. I do, though. All right, number B and 1, Geraldine.
Evolution, some misconceptions. Evolution is a proven fact. Wrong. Neither evolution nor creation is proven because we cannot now see either theory in operation today. Both ideas are theories that must be accepted by faith. The person's conclusions for their faith must be based upon truth, though. The evolutionist has no proof, only more theories. The creationist has the words of the Bible, which can be proven in a court to be true. It has been consistently proven there are no false statements in the Bible.
Well, that's very important. When I come to the Bible, and it says there was a city named Ur the Chaldees that Abraham came out of and went to the promised land, so on and so forth. Up until 1850 sometime, nobody knew where Ur the Chaldees was. They had never found that city, and everybody laughed and says, oh, it's a fictitious city. And then they found it. So if somebody said there are false statements in the Bible, you have to say, all right, prove them. Prove to me a false statement in the Bible, and they can't prove it. So there are statements that are not provable, like that there's a God, but every statement, you can't disprove the existence of God either. So that's complicated to understand, but there are no false statements in the Bible. The Bible doesn't say the moon is made out of cheese. Did you know we can disprove that statement? We can say, oh, well, the Bible's wrong there. If the Bible said the earth is a square, well, we can disprove that. But it doesn't, everything it says always is found out to be true. Not everything can be proven, meaning that you can't prove some of the statements that there is a heaven, you can't prove that there are mansions there yet, so on and so forth. But everything else is verifiably true. So number 2, Bill.
Bible and religion are just the same.
That's what people think. I wanted you to understand. This is a misconception. Okay, go ahead.
Nothing could be further from the truth. The Bible is God's final word. Religion is man's attempt to replace the need for the Bible.
So one of the arguments I always have when I've had the opportunity to present creation versus evolution is people think, oh, you're just presenting more religion. And you say, no. Religion and the Bible are different. Okay, 3. Back to you, Bethany.
The Bible is religious and therefore not scientific. How that could be true is beyond reason. Yes, the Bible is religious, but only because it speaks from outside human perceptions. And it speaks about more than just the future. It accurately describes all major scientific laws of physics without contradiction.
It actually speaks about physical laws. Number 4, Geraldine.
So then only ignorant people believe the Bible. Ignorance is when a person is unaware of something beyond their current understanding. All people, therefore, are ignorant, but there are those who desire to be willfully ignorant of anything besides what they currently believe to be true. These are usually scientists.
All right, so here's some definitions. Back to you, Bill.
So what science is a body of knowledge that can be demonstrated and observed as fact. If something cannot be proven with observable evidence, then it is only a theory and not science. Scientific facts are called laws. For anything to become scientific law, it must stand up to a due process of observability. It can be seen, and repeatedly it can be repeated. Anything that cannot be repeated or observed now is only a theory. It can never be fact.
Okay, so I can't prove creation as a fact. Okay, I can only prove that we're here. I cannot prove that we miraculously appeared. I'm going to have to go to an outside source to tell me how. But an evolutionist cannot tell you how everything happened. So they speak about a Big Bang, or they speak about all kinds of different theories. Both are theories. Let's establish that. Both are, I wasn't there, you weren't there. We have some ideas of how it happened. I got my ideas from the Bible. You get your ideas from a long series, as Bill was saying, a long series of ever-changing opinions called evolution. So when we step back and go, both are theories, good. But let's see which theory actually matches all the facts. Okay, so let's talk secondly, Bethany, B.
A scientific law is a verifiable fact that has been observed and repeated and proven to be true. Science is supposed to be based on laws, not theories. Up until 1880, science was only interested in developing laws based on facts. But now science has to be popular and has been swayed towards focusing on generating theories while ignoring established facts.
And I like reading what are called scientific journals. And they've stopped talking about science, and they talk about it is generally believed that there is life in the universe. It is generally believed, and they talk like a Christian. believe. They don't have facts. It is generally believed that there was life on Mars, that there was water everywhere. It's generally believed, but they don't have the facts. They just have, it looks like there was water there, but they can't prove it. So a scientific law is something that is observable and repeatable, science doesn't have laws anymore. They just have opinions.
Put it this way, if you put wrong information into the computer, you get wrong information out. So what they're doing is using kind of theoried facts going into it and coming up with something that's totally wrong.
Yes, and it makes people believe that theories are facts, and they're not.
So if they come up with, say, the level of the fossils being found in the soil, and they're thinking that soil took millions of years to, and think it's a wrong accumulation, and then what's going to come out of the computer is wrong alignment on that. Whereas if they put in the right information from the start, like if they were working off the Bible script, they'd then say, well, that fossil was there a couple of years.
Even if somebody was not going by the Bible alone, and was an honest scientist will look at the evidence and go, we do not know how old this fossil is. And just because we found it at this level does not mean we know how old it is, so on and so forth. So an honest scientist, which a lot of them become Christians because they realize the facts are neutral. And the facts actually, when you come to the Bible, they actually are tilted towards the Bible's story, that everything appeared rapidly and instantly, not over, now the evolutionist says it's over billions of 4.5 billion years, but life appeared instantly in the fossil record. And life, the way that they're fossilized, this is wonderful, is as if there was a cataclysmic flood burying everything. You go, well, where was there a flood described? Well, the scientists can't come up with those answers without extra revelation.
And I suppose when you think of the population alone, the way it can multiply so quickly, if they're saying that it was 10, 20,000 years ago even that man was on Earth, you'd have to have the population dying off multiple times.
That's right.
To come up with that, because I've heard the story of a penny a day doubled becomes 31,
in 31 days, it becomes an impossible. The number is just incredible.
10 million
Yeah.
is the thing. So again, if you double birth rate every year,
Well, we don't double our birth rate every year, thankfully, so we'd all be buried, but it is pretty intense. Okay, so let's talk now. What is evolution? That's you, Bethany, read it again. Oh, is it?
I could.
Did you already read it? Did you just read number B? Oh, okay, so Geraldine, number 2.
What evolution is? Evolution is a theory of the origin of all things based upon a process of continuous innovative change. It states the universe is continually improving itself. It may take billions of years, but it is supposedly gradually improving. This usually means without allowing for an outside creator's help. It represents the acceptance of anything that can explain the existence of this universe, as long as it does not allow for the existence of God.
Okay, so Bill, you have a garden. You've got this. You call it a garden. You got this box of dirt, and you just go, let's see what happens. Does it just naturally improve? Do the weeds just march out and plants grow and tomatoes, blossom?
No, even when I said they don't grow.
But an evolutionist says, given enough time, things will improve. And that's insanity, right? So what is creation, Bill?
Creationism begins with the theory that the intelligent designer, God, created a perfect creation, and that creation is currently falling apart, not improving.
Amen.
Creationism states that creation was a one-time event and is not now occurring. Biblical creationism takes the Bible literally when it says God created everything in 6 24-hour days.
So neither evolution nor creation is an established fact. Neither can be observed nor repeated. Both are theories. The question is, which theory makes more sense? So, Bethany, where did the universe come from?
Let's face it, the universe is here. The basic problem is, how did it get here? In order to be scientific, we will have to go by what we can observe and by what we can demonstrate. Let's look at the only 4 possible explanations of how this earth got here.
Now, this will be something that 99% of people will not get. But let's boil it down. There are 4 possibilities, only 4. You will never, I have asked everybody, you will never come up with one outside of these 4. So number A, what is one possibility about this universe? Geraldine.
First of all, that the universe has always been here. This theory states that matter is eternal and therefore has just always been here.
And there are a lot of people who think that, the earth has always been here. The sun has always been burning, okay? There are people that actually believe that, and if the sun ever burns out, the matter was always there and it'll always be here. They just believe in the eternity of matter. B, Bill.
The universe has not always been here. There was a time when naturally nothing produced something. The explanation describes matter coming into existence from nothing by chance, and then life coming into existence from dead matter, all by accident.
Okay, there are people who believe that the universe has not always been here and it all happened by accident. C?
The universe is not really here, but just an illusion.
I have met people like this.
You just think that it's here.
Or you can take it into existence as the New Agers probably did.
Yeah.
This theory pleases Buddhists who believe life is only an illusion that needs to be resolved and produces more drug addicts.
D, the universe started suddenly and a creator made it. This is what Jesus Christ believed. Mark 13. I get people on the verses.
Yep.
Sorry. I have it. 13:19 is, for in those days shall be affliction, such as was not from the beginning of creation, which God created unto this time, neither shall be.
So Jesus believed in creation. Who else?
Then King David in Psalm 8:3. So David in 8:3. When I consider thy heavens, the work of thy fingers, the moon and the stars, which thou hast ordained. And again, Psalm 19:1. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork.
Okay, they are a reflection of God's glory. They show his handiwork. All right, so if I showed off a clay vase that I made it. It's implying God made everything. It didn't happen accidentally on its own. Okay, and you got another one?
So then the Apostle John 1:1-3. John 1:1-3, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made.
Wow. So he made everything.
Okay, and then we have Paul, Colossians 1, 15-17. So who is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of every creature? For by him were all things created that are in heaven and that are in earth, visible and invisible, whether they be thrones or dominions, or principalities or powers. All things were created by him and for him. And he is before all things, and by him all things consist.
That's really cool.
And he is the head of the body, the church, who is the beginning, the firstborn from the dead, that in all things he might have the preeminence.
Okay. So the Bible sort of describes everything's created. You're all right. For by him were all things created. And then E, Bill.
There can only be 4 possible explanations for the existence of the universe. Can you come up with any other explanation that is not covered by one of the above 4? The first 2 explanations are a basis for all evolution theories. Of the 4, which is most scientific, observable, and logical.
All right, hold. So those first 2, which is the universe has always been here, is called uniformitarianism. And scientists up until the early 1800s, late 1700s, all believed that the universe just was what's called steady state. It's always just been here. Things are dying, yes, but things are, it's all the same, okay? And then the second there, the universe has not always been here, it just appeared accidentally. Those are the basis of anybody who's ever been an evolutionist. So the first 2 are what evolutionists believe. But of those 4, which one's the most scientific, that is observable and logical? So finish now.
To settle this, let's look at the proven laws of science and allow them to determine the answer.
So let's find out. Anything that's against the law of physics has to be questioned. Now, there are some things that we can't explain by physics or whatever. But let's see if evolution goes against the laws of physics. So Roman numeral 4, A and 1 and A. Go ahead. Yes, please.
Evolution, a science contrary to evidence, 1 Timothy 6:20. O Timothy, keep that which is committed to thy trust, avoiding profane and vain babblings and oppositions of science falsely so called.
So in Paul's day, was there science? Mm-hmm. But there's also false science. Yeah. Okay.
Some scientific laws against any form of evolution. The laws of thermodynamics, heat energy. The first law says energy and matter can be transformed, changed, and altered, but cannot now be created or destroyed. This law does away with theory B. A universe that accidentally big banged out of nothing is unscientific, since matter cannot naturally be created. See Nehemiah 9:6.
Before Psalms.
Where it is.
Middle of your Bible, then go backwards.
After Job.
Before Job.
Or is that me or you? Who's reading?
Me.
Yeah.
Thou, even thou art Lord alone. Thou hast made heaven, the heaven of heavens, with all their host, the earth and all things that are therein, the seas and all that is therein, and thou preservest them all, and the host of heaven worshipeth thee.
All right, so watch that. Watch those words. They were created, and what was the next word? It's a verb there. What else does God do? According to that verse, God created the universe and preserves. Okay, holds it together because naturally it decays. That is called the second law of thermodynamics, the second law of heat energy, which means if you light a fire, what happens? It burns out. All right, that's a simple law. So if this universe exists and it had a creation, what does the law state? That everything's wearing out, everything's cooling off. That is a scientific law. So keep going.
Evolution requires you to believe everything accidentally came from nothing.
Okay, so this is very important. So they're going to say, all right, well, let's just get rid of God and nothing created everything. And I wonder, and so we have everything that's falling apart. But wow, for nothing to create this universe is a huge leap of faith. That is where I disagree. Even as an unsaved teenager, when somebody talked about evolution, I was enthralled with it, but the mechanics didn't make sense to me. How does nothing produce everything? So I never bothered with it because I had no other alternative. Doesn't that make sense? If you don't have an alternative, you'll stick with what you know, the devil you know, okay? Let's do B, Geraldine.
B.
The little B next to the watch.
Little B next to the watch.
TikTok.
It's just there's so much information.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
It's like the second law states that energy in a closed system will run out. This is called entropy. All forms of energy run down like a watch. For example, things do not grow toward order and cleanliness by accident. Ask any housewife with kids. Nothing is the process of evolving, getting better and more advanced and more powerful, but rather everything which can be seen demonstrates dissipation, disintegration, decay, and degeneration. Nothing is improved unless it is worked by an outside force. This law is stated in Isaiah 51:6.
To the right.
Isaiah 51:6. Lift up your eyes to the heavens and look upon the earth beneath. For the heavens shall vanish away like smoke, and the earth shall wax old like a garment. And they that dwell therein shall die in like manner, but my salvation shall be forever, and my righteousness shall not be abolished.
All right, so in your own words, what is 51:6 describing? What's happening?
The state of play in the universe.
And it's all doing what?
Just slowing down, winding down,
Falling apart.
falling apart. Yeah.
It's like smoke. It just dissipates. It just disappears. Okay. So that's called entropy. All right. Keep going.
And does away with theory A.
What was theory A?
I was just thinking the same thing. That the universe has always been here.
Yeah. Well, if it always has been here,
Yeah.
it should have burned out a long time ago. Okay, keep going.
Since if the universe had always been here, it would have burnt out.
I'm sorry, that's my brain.
Even though matter and energy cannot disappear, energy is always slowing down, as in never increasing and never being replaced. An example is the burning of a fire log. The log burns and produces heat energy. The energy is then gone from the log and cannot be produced from the same log anymore.
So it does away with theory A. Okay, good. Let's do it. Number 2, Bill.
The law of cause and effect. To every action there is an opposite and an equal reaction. For every effect that we see in the universe, there had to be an original cause. Evolution requires that all order came from chaos, being helped along, again accidentally.
Evolution says creation came from nothing, which is a strange cause. How can nothing start everything? So if I go from me, here's Craig. Well, that's Bill and Barbara Ledbetter was my cause. And all the way going back to Adam and Eve. Well, who's the cause of that? So we have to go back to what's called an ultimate cause, which is God. Now, what does an evolutionist say about this? Where did God come from? Isn't that, you ever heard that? Well, he doesn't have to come from anywhere. That's where the definition comes in. God is the original cause. He is the self-existent one. He started it all. He doesn't have a start. But you can't say that about Adam. You can't say that about my dad. He just always existed. No, but you can say it about God. And this is where you got to have confidence when you're talking to people who begin to attack your faith and you say, well, I just believe that there was one original cause. Where did that cause come from? Where did it go? He doesn't have to come from anywhere. His very nature is always existing. Okay? So that's where your process comes in. No, the answer is God's different than me. God's different than his creation. What do most religions, and I'm talking about religions that aren't Catholic or Protestant or something like that, but what do most religions believe if I drew a circle and I said, this is our universe, where is God? And they put God in the universe, all right? He's in the trees, all right? He's in the stars. You have the Mormons say that God came from a planet, whatever the name is, I forget. And so God is in here. But where is God in the Bible? Right? He's actually outside of his creation, and he's everywhere, including his creation. But God is not a part of his creation. He's not an idol. He's not a statue. He's not a powerful force or whatever. God created the universe outside of himself. Does that make sense? And so he always has existed. We haven't.
It's easier to accept that there has to be an intelligence behind everything from that angle, but it's still a question mark when you say, how did God, I find it hard to believe, that there's nothingness and then there's something, it's just the way I'm built, so I can't understand.
Well, because you're trying to figure out how did God do it.
Well, he had to have created himself out of nothing, So.
Himself?
No.
Well, how could God have created himself? Why does God have to be created?
Well, for my concept of existence is that there is always something. It's just something.
There's always a beginning.
Yeah, there's something.
Unless you read the Bible and you go, wow, this is an eternal being from everlasting to everlasting.
I know.
Thou art God. So God has never had a beginning. So we now step into the realm of, I have to accept there's another kind of being than me. I have an existence, everything. There was a time when somebody fashioned and printed this book. It had a beginning. This very book that I hold in my hand. Everything has a beginning and most everything has an end. But when it comes to God, he has always been there. So there's no way for God to create himself. That would be insane. That would be even more insane. So God has always existed.
I know, but doesn't it still, like if you're somebody that's, or evolutionist or whatever, in the same vague kind of start, get go point that they refer to, it's like, well, the earth was or the universe was always there, that kind of thing.
And we just disprove that. All you have to do is use the second law of thermodynamics. Everything's wearing out. If that's true, then it all should have gone away a long time ago. If it's always been here, you can't have, I'm going to use a terrible illustration. You can't have
that God is wearing out, then
well, no, you're that's what I said. Yeah. Everything inside of this circle, this is called a closed system. Everything is decaying, wearing out, disintegrating, falling apart. God is outside. He does not operate like we do. He is eternal. He never wears out. He has always been there and he always will be there. And he never changes.
Yeah, I have to accept it, obviously, because it's the most logical of it, and I know it's like the world was created by God, but it's just very hard to kind of put your head around that.
That's where we come by faith, and faith doesn't always make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Okay.
I can kind of see where, like, it's not a debate I want to get into, to be honest.
Well, it's not that you have to get into, but you just, in your own heart of hearts, I'm just trying to give you some sense of, I don't have to worry about them being right. Mm-hmm. And if you ever get a chance, you can reply. There are some basic things once you get your head around it. There's always a response and gets them thinking. Because most people, like I said, when I was 17, 16, 15, 14, when I thought of evolution, I had no alternative. Mm-hmm. So you're giving them an alternative. They go, I never thought of that.
But you see, I suppose my thing is that I would as a born again Christian, I would always accept that God is the creator. But that's because it supports everything that I believe.
Correct.
You know, it supports the Bible that I believe. It supports everything that I believe. So, when I look to the stars, the moon, even a good day, a bad day kind of thing, right? God's hand is in all of that, in my perspective on things, right? But it's like, if you're just blah blah, going on with life, blah blah, not looking above, beyond, or just getting on with everything, and if you get hung up on the argument of creation, evolution only, it's a hard one to describe, but I have no problem accepting God as a creator, because it encompasses everything else that I believe about the Bible as well. But if I was kind of like, yeah, the Bible, yeah, that's fine. It's a fine old book, really, and a fine old time, long ago, you know. Then in turn, that pushes stability for thinking of creation and versus evolution. I mean, evolution, it's like, well, sure, if God always existed, sure, what should the earth could always have existed?
Yeah.
But there are times when you'd have to go to this argument, because I know one of the men in Mullingar, he got saved after going to a creation seminar. He had to know that creation was a possibility before he could accept salvation.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because you can't trust a God who lies to you. You can't trust a God who lies to you, that tells you, I created everything, but really I didn't.
Right.
Everything's honest. No, I have to trust that the Bible is true from the beginning. Our main verse this year is, thy word is true from the beginning. So when God says he created, I have to take it by faith. Now you're starting from a viewpoint, I believe in Jesus, stuff like this. So therefore, I believe in what I can't understand. And that's a good thing. That's where David was. I mean, David had no telescope and stuff. But when we're in a day where they have telescopes, they have microscopes, they have very fancy particle accelerators, and they're trying to... I can still say I still believe the Bible, because I have facts that help me understand even the complex and the hard things. Not everybody has that need, but there are loads of people in every generation who have no alternative. And so when they're parents or when they're in church and they talk about the Bible, they've already made up their mind it's a myth. And I need to show them, no, it's scientifically accurate. And that is important for them to be able to say, oh, then I need to believe it. That's the basis upon which I believe. So a lot of people need that.
You see, going back to what I was saying there, you know, you can easily come to the conclusion that God created the world and universe. It's the most logical thing. But going to accept that God is always there without him coming about somehow, I leave it at that when I say to God, because I don't know how that happened.
Yeah.
But it's kind of, you know, I don't even want to think about it, but to try and push.
But if God tells you, he has always been there. If he tells you that.
Yeah, he is, yeah.
Okay. And if he says there is no other God but me, then it settles it so that I don't even have to question, how did he come? I don't even have to try to figure it out, because if I have to start with God, if I start with me and I say my great cause, I'm the effect of God, okay? I mean, we could talk about me, or we could all of creation, all right? If I'm trying to figure out where everything came from, I go back to God, but then I have to say, well, who created God? Well, a previous God created God. Now you're in a realm where that's impossible.
But somehow, you know, the intelligence that is there, you know, it's invisible or whatever, that's developed and became...
Developed? You think that God had to grow up
I don't
and
know.
mature and go to school?
I just can't figure
It
out
doesn't
how
work.
such a vast...
It is, and that's where the mind goes,
kind of
wow, let me try to understand this.
But doesn't God, you'd want God to be outside our system.
Yes.
You want him to be greater than...
Well, he is.
Yeah.
There's no
Yes.
problem.
Yeah.
But to think of something just being there all the time
Yes.
is just hard to comprehend. You know, it's
I do. Yeah, if you could print out the
can't do it.
Yeah. It's like
I need
thinking
to
about the
copy of the
Trinity.
budget.
You just can't understand
Thank
it, so
you.
you have to.
We're done. We're done.
The Trinity.
Yeah.
Oh, there's lots of issues that you'll always come to, and you'll say,
You know,
"How do I understand this?"
the absolute awesomeness of God alone.
Yes.
To think that He could be there always. It's just that's beyond.
It's of course it is, and you need to be able to go, "That's God." Not, but if I can't understand Him, I can't believe it. No, no, no.
Oh, no, well, I believe that God is there.
But that He's always been there.
It started from a little intelligence to a maximum intelligence.
Well, that implies a lot of problems. So
Yeah.
anyway, we'll have to stop there. And we're just looking, and this is supposed to open our minds so that the more I come to the God of the Bible, the more awed I am of Him. So we will stop there.